So have you got an old or embarrassing tattoo that you would like to cover up with a new tattoo? How do cover-up tattoos work? Stay tuned for tips and more. Hey guys, I'm HayleeTattooer and this is Tattoo Talk. So today we're going to be talking about cover-up tattoos. So first up, what exactly is a cover-up tattoo? A cover-up is when you have an old tattoo which may be faded, outdated, embarrassing, or something that you just want to utilize the space for something better and you would like to cover it with a new tattoo. So if the cover-up is possible, your tattoo artist will just design a new tattoo and blast it straight over the existing one. In many cases, the pigment from the new tattoo will superimpose over the existing pigment from the current tattoo and you won't be able to see it anymore. But there are a lot of variables as to whether a cover-up tattoo will work. So what tattoos can be covered and which ones cannot be covered? Now there is a lot of debate in the tattoo industry about cover-up tattoos. A lot of tattoo artists won't attempt a cover-up if they don't feel like they can get a good outcome to cover the existing piece. And it really does come down to a couple of things. The darkness of the original tattoo, the amount of color saturation in the new tattoo, and the artist's capability to saturate those colors within the skin adequately. So as a tattoo artist, when I get approached by a client who would like a cover-up, there are a couple of things that I really look for. First of all is the density of the original tattoo. Is it new? Is it old? Is it faded? Is it very vibrant and dark? Because if it is still sharp and vibrant and dark, what you're going to find is it's going to be difficult to saturate colors over the top of it in a way that is going to hold in the long term. It may look fantastic when it's first done, but those darker pigments will often break through and you will be able to see the original tattoo under the new tattoo, which is not ideal because what you end up with is something very busy looking, something that is very obviously a tattoo cover-up, and you really don't want people to look at a new tattoo and see that it is a cover-up. That is the whole principle of a cover-up, is that you are eliminating the old one. And the problem with cover-ups is that if it is not performed correctly, what you may end up with is a tattoo that you are the same as, if not more, dissatisfied than what you started off with. That's something that I really take to the discussion with my clients, is that if I don't feel like it can be executed well by myself, like different artists may have different techniques and different ideas, different spectrums of color and what can be done, and different ideas of design and that kind of thing. But if a client came to me and I didn't feel like I could give them a good outcome, like that you wouldn't be able to see the original tattoo underneath, I will discuss with the client some other options, perhaps getting a couple of hits of laser first, or perhaps changing their cover-up idea to fit over the original design better. So to give you a bit of an idea of what I'm talking about, if we have a look at this picture here where the person has an old tattoo on but it is still quite dark. So what we can do is look at a couple of different options for cover-up. So if we were to cover the tattoo with a black and grey design, like a realism design, which consists of black, grey wash, and maybe some white highlights. So if we look at that superimposed over the original tattoo with a bit of opacity just to mimic this style, you see that it doesn't quite cover the original piece, that the original piece still shows through because of the darkness, and what is covering it doesn't necessarily give enough saturation to cover the design. So if we have a look at another example, so the same original tattoo, but this time we have put something over it that looks a lot more dense, a lot more color dense, a lot more bold, and just two things. First, the saturation of the color really does well, and the dark colors does well to cover the original dark tones in the first tattoo, but also the contrast of the bold lines and the bold dark tones draws the eye away from the original tones in the first tattoo. That's just an example of what could be used as a cover-up and what couldn't be used as a cover-up. Another problem that we tend to run into with cover-ups is the placement of where they are on the body. Because to achieve a great cover-up outcome, ideally you would like to hide the original tattoo in the new piece somewhere and not have the entire new piece be the same size as the original tattoo. That makes it very, very difficult to hide parts of it in the new tattoo. Whereas if you have a larger tattoo and the old tattoo is hidden in a dark area but your eye is drawn to another section of the tattoo, that way it's much easier to hide, much easier to draw the eye away from the old tattoo, and therefore less likely for the old one to show through and catch your attention. So here we have like an old tattoo on the wrist that needs to be covered, and the client is happy to cover it with a bigger tattoo. So what we're going to do is design a new tattoo around and over the old tattoo so that dark areas purposefully fall over that original tattoo. That way it can be covered and hidden in the bottom of it. Whereas if you have a look at a tattoo like this where the client has an old tattoo in a constricted area. So on the wrist, we can't move up. They don't want to go further up the arm. They just want to contain it to the same size as the original tattoo. But as you can see, when you put the new tattoo over the top, it is very visible because you can see the whole tattoo through the new tattoo, and there's nowhere to draw your eye away from it. Not a lot of opportunity to add dark contrast and light contrast. The whole thing needs to be dark, and it's very obviously a cover-up, and like I said, you could well end up with something that you are less happy with than what you started with. So then, what styles of tattoo can be used effectively as a tattoo cover-up? Again, this really depends on the artist's preference and what they're familiar with. If there's a specific style, then you really need to find that niche artist that works in that style but will also work with you to cover up your existing work. Anything that is saturated, which means that there's not a lot of skin tone showing through. The color is dense. It's not washed in like a grey wash tattoo or a realism tattoo or a black and grey realism tattoo. It is dense and saturated. So perhaps color realism with like a lot of dark tones, a lot of those deep tones, still with your highlights so that there's good contrast and good curves, but it really needs to be saturated and bold. So another option would be to go with neo-traditional, which has quite bold, thick lines, a lot of detail, a lot of your deeper tones, a lot of your saturated tones, not a lot of skin tone showing through. So that would also make for an ideal cover-up. Basically anything that has really vibrant tones and a lot of skin coverage. So when you're thinking about your color spectrum, you really need to go with your deeper tones, your blues, your greens, your purples, that kind of thing, because if you're thinking, say if you've got a black existing tattoo and you want to put pastel flowers through there, it's not really going to work because the deeper tones are always going to win out over those pastel tones. So how do you plan for an effective cover-up? I recommend to my clients is start off thinking about a tattoo that you would really love to get anyway. You're not just scraping the barrel looking for any design that's going to cover up the first tattoo. You're embarrassed, we get it. It's probably your ex-boyfriend's name, we get it. But you don't want to just pick anything and get it just for the sake of covering it up. Approach it like just a fresh tattoo. You've got a space you want to fill. What would you like to put in there anyway? Then, can we do it in a way that is going to function well as a cover-up? So that way you're going to like your new design, it's going to work well as a cover-up. Once you've figured out what you want and a style that would work effectively to cover, you need to find the right artist for the job. You're not going to go to a grey wash artist looking for saturated colour unless that artist is quite flexible with their styles. You're not going to go to a traditional tattoo artist that does a lot of shading, like whip shading, because their style isn't going to be quite saturated enough in most cases. There are ways to make it work, but find an artist that specializes in bold, good cover-up, and look for on their Instagram and social media or their portfolios or website, make sure you have a look for examples of cover-ups or ask them if they do cover-ups. Please make sure you approach your artist and open with that you need something covered up. If you show up on the day of your appointment or at your consultation and you haven't explained to them that you're wanting something covered up with the new design, they might need to refer you to another artist, because not all artists will tackle cover-up jobs. So you've got your idea, you know the style, you've chosen an artist and spoken to your artist. The next step in a tattoo is just to let the artist take a little bit of creative control, a little bit of creative license, so that they can morph the idea into something that's going to fit and work well over your existing piece. If you do go in with your mind set on exactly what you want, you may be disappointed, because not everything can work well as a cover-up. But your artist should be able to mess around with the design, have a play, so that it fits around and fits over your existing work. So just be prepared to have your design change a little bit. Be prepared to give away a little bit of creative control. So a lot of the time I will do consultations with clients, and they come in and they've got a big piece, say they've got like a half sleeve that's quite dark already, and it's probably not going to work well as a cover-up tattoo. Just, you know, whatever style that you want to put over it, the original tattoo might eventually shine through. So where do we go from here? Usually I will recommend a couple of sessions of laser tattoo removal. We don't need to completely lighten the entire tattoo. What we need to do is just bring those darker, bolder tones down to a level where we can effectively saturate the new tattoo over the top of it without the original pigment showing through. So what you need to do is find a really good laser technician that understands tattoos, just a dedicated tattoo removal laser technician, because those are the people that are going to be well trained. They understand the skin, they understand tattoo pigment, they understand how it works, and they will be able to give you some prices on laser tattoo removal. Like I said, you don't need to remove the tattoo entirely, you just need a couple of sessions to bring down the tones. Any good laser technician should be able to lighten those dark tones within 3 to 5 laser sessions. More to completely remove the tattoo, but just to lighten it up, depending on your skin tones and the darkness of the tattoo and the colors, that kind of thing, a few sessions usually does it. I will do a dedicated video on laser tattoo removal as well, but just so you can be prepared, laser is very, very painful. You can numb it. You just need to talk to your laser technician about what you can use and how to use it to numb it. And a lot of clients may feel resistant to the idea of getting laser because, oh, it's expensive and it hurts and I won't be able to get my tattoo covered up quickly. You know, I'll have to wait 6 months down the track for all the lasering to heal. Trust me, it is worth it, because the amount of triple cover-ups that I have done, which is a tattoo that somebody has already covered and then they hate the cover-ups and then they come in and try and cover it again, you are much better off waiting. And I understand that we're in the generation of instant gratification, but it's definitely worth waiting to get that overall result, that end result that is going to be a little bit better. May cost you a little bit more money. Get a quote from your laser technician. It's not as expensive as a lot of people think. Just to get a couple of sessions lasered down, leave it 6 to 10 weeks to heal in between. In 6 months, you can come in and get the tattoo that you wanted to get in the first place and get it done right the first time. So I definitely recommend, if your tattoo artist says to get laser, look into it. It may not be as scary as you think it is. So there you have it, all the details on getting a cover-up tattoo, including with laser. And if you have any questions, just pop them in the comments below and I will answer them in future videos, and make sure you hit subscribe. I'll see you next time.